Michael Strain of the American Enterprise Institute is my guest. Michael, you've got a new book out called The American Dream is Not Dead. Um, Now, that will come as a challenge to a lot of people, perhaps on both the left and the right. There's been a view over the last decade or so that stagnant wages, declining social mobility, all these opinion polls that show that people think that, first of all, their children are not going to have a better life than they have, and secondly, that things have been on the wrong track for a long time. It does look like the American dream is, if not dead, then is on life support. Why do you take a different view?
Yeah, so let me first say that right now we're in a period of extreme challenge, and this is a challenging period for workers and for households, and people are right to be experiencing some anxiety about this, and people's economic outcomes are going to suffer over the next few months for sure. What I do in the book is I look at the kind of longer sweep. I look at the last 30 years, and I say, over the last 30 years, what is the story of American workers? What is the story of American households, typical workers, typical households, not just the top 1%? And what I see is a slow but steady upward march of economic progress. I see wages for typical workers have grown by a third over the last 3 decades. I see household income is up by even more than that. I see that 3/4 of people grow up to have higher incomes than their parents did. I see that the solid majority of sons grow up to earn more money than their fathers did. Now, that's not to say that over the past 30 years there weren't periods of challenge. There were, just like the period of challenge we're living in now, the Great Recession being the most recent. So this is not a story of uninterrupted progress. But if you look over the last 3 decades, the long sweep of the economic story for typical workers and typical households is a success story. The American dream is not dead. And my strong prediction is that even though we're in for a rough few months, the coronavirus isn't going to knock the American dream out either.
So you say, for example, that sons go on to earn more than their fathers. Is that generally true? I mean, there is, because there's a lot of research out there which suggests that upward social mobility in the United States may still be around, but it's declined from where it used to be. Perhaps when we used to think of the golden age of the 1950s. Are we as an opportunity-driven society as we were before?
So I think I would look at it in 2 ways. The first question is, are we still upwardly mobile? I think the answer to that question is a resounding yes. If you look at people who are in their 40s today and look at their household income, about 3/4 of people have a higher household income than their parents did when their parents were the same age. If you look at people today who were raised in the bottom 20%, 86% of those households have a higher income today than their parents did when their parents are a similar age. So just in an absolute sense, I think it's incorrect to say we're not upwardly mobile. I think we have quite a bit of upward mobility. I think you can look at the trend in mobility rates, and yes, we are less mobile than we used to be. But remember, a lot of that trend is being driven by the success that people had decades ago relative to their parents who lived through the Great Depression.
Michael, sorry,
the rate of upward mobility used to be like 90%.
Excuse me for interrupting you, but I want to quickly get you argue that populism is a threat to that. So the things that President Trump stands for, maybe tougher restrictions on trade, on immigration, you think that's a threat to the American dream? Very briefly, if you would explain why you think that.
I think it's a threat for 2 reasons. I think populist policies hurt workers, and I think the message that populism sends, that the economy is rigged against you, that you can't make economic progress, that message is an extremely destructive message, precisely because it's wrong.
Again, the book is The American Dream is Not Dead, but populism could kill it. My thanks to Michael Strain. Just ahead, despite the enormous difficulties the coronavirus presents,